Hey everybody, it's Matt Brown, and this is Purple Haze, in case you were born yesterday. Alright, so with this one, lots of cool stuff going on. Lots of cool kind of like tone tricks, scale choices, and ways to use those scales in a really creative fashion over a fairly simple progression. So, without further ado, let's look at what's going on underneath the solo. Here we don't have any guitar playing under the solo, it's just a bass line. Now, with the bass line, he's really playing hard and with a fairly dirty tone to get a pretty aggressive sound. And what he's playing is improvised, because this is the 60s when people still improvise music. Alright, so it's just like an E thing for a bar, and then F for 2 beats and D for 2 beats. So something like this. That type of deal. And like I said, there's some slight variation because he's just kind of grooving on that general idea. Alright. So I started this solo with kind of the lead into it, just to give it some context. So I'm going to start with that stuff and show you what's going on with all of that too, just in case you're curious. So let's check it out. It goes like this. So that's our first thing here. Classic Hendrix motif for musical device octaves. So that's that little figure. We've got this grace note slide from E to F sharp, and then we just come back down from E to D. Alright, now the next part is this. So that is just some E minor pentatonic stuff right here. Now this, I would say, I mean, you could analyze it as like C sharp minor pentatonic, or as still being like in an E tonal center, so E Dorian. And this comes back to our classic E minor pentatonic box up here. Up here. So to recap what we have so far, we've got this so far. So, I'll talk about the bends that happen in this lick. The first little section where he's doing he's just kind of teasing it up a quarter step. Now the next one, it didn't sound to me like he was going for something specific. So, what I was getting was that he was hitting the B note and slowly pushing it up to somewhere around a C sharp, maybe a little bit short of that. So it's not like a real specific thing, it's more like he's just, you know, really digging in for effect. Alright, so the next thing we have is this double stop thing that we've seen in, I think, 3 other solos now. So it's like a dotted 8th, 16th note thing. Like that. Alright, so now I'm going to talk about maybe a little bit of the theory for the next part of the solo. There's maybe a couple different ways that you could look at it. One way that you could analyze it is that it's all E Dorian for the most part, with like one note from Mixolydian thrown in over the 1 chord, which would be our dominant 7 sharp 9. But of course, again, we don't have any guitar going on here. But anyway, so that's one way you could look at it. The other way is you could say it's kind of like he's using, for some phrases, kind of, sort of in terms of the just specifically like if you look at phrases. Like an F sharp minor pentatonic for some stuff, like the first idea. And then, you know, later on he's kind of playing out of this over, you know, kind of like E Dorian, E minor pentatonic. So you can kind of look at it as a 2-scale thing or just as one. So to make a long story boring. Alright, so let's look at some of the licks. This is over the part, the bulk of the solo. So here's the first phrase. First little chunk. So it's kind of, like I said, either E Dorian or F sharp minor pentatonic. Alright, so then we've got this hammer-on pull-off thing. And then we're going to do a grace note and slide into the 13th fret. Like that. Okay, now we're into the next measure, which sounds like this. Into the next measure. So that measure, do it slow. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let's look at this next measure here. So we've got this G note, and they're sliding in, kind of doing this fast slide between these notes here. In these real fast slurs, and whether they're slides or hammer-ons and pull-offs, what one thing I noticed when listening to the original recording of this is it really it's really effective with that Octavia pedal that he's using. It just naturally brings out some of the things that pedal does nicely. So working in these fast slurs, you know, just really serves that pedal well. So I guess is all I wanted to say with that. Okay, so we've got this. Then next part is this. So more E Dorian type stuff. So that's 12, 14, 12, 11, 12. Okay, here's the next bit. So, okay, slowly. Then we have this. It's just 2 notes back and forth. Which is kind of an unusual thing for a guitarist to play. So everything really about this is just kind of quirky. Kind of like the Stone Temple Pilots thing, but quirky in a different way. So here we go. In the next part, coming to a D and an E note. Like that. So the sweep comes in on the and of 3, and we're doing all upstrokes from the 1st string into the 4th string. But when we get through the top 3 strings, we're not going to let them ring. We're just going to let that 4th string ring, and then we're coming in to the next note. Here's the last 2 bars. So this really cool thing, because it's like a major 7th jump up to the 9th of the chord, which is just, yeah, it's just a really cool thing to do. So this one, the rhythm's kind of strange. We've got, that's beat 1, then beat 2 we have this, with sort of a dotted rhythm. And then that slur goes over to the next beat, to beat 3. And then beat 4 we have this. So that's an 8th note with some sextuplets. And then the following bar. then we're out of the solo. So it's kind of hard to explain what's going on. And he's playing a little bit ahead of the beat. He rushes and then he kind of pulls back a little bit. So he sort of pushes ahead in that second to last measure and then kind of like pulls it back a little bit, I guess, with the last measure. Alright, so that's all the solo. I'll go through all of that slowly now, and then you'll get the full demo again at the end. So here we go. So the tempo is about 96, so I'll try to shoot for maybe like 10 BPMs under that. 1, 2.